breakfast peaks between 9 to 10 a.m. So sometimes, you might want to do some breakfast menus, but, if you're not there before 9 a.m., you will miss the peak hour for breakfast.
You're listening to Foodie Canteen. I'm your host, Castle Lim. In this podcast, I sit down with Southeast Asia's leaders, entrepreneurs, and content creators in the F&B space. This is where you'll learn about their trade secrets, or maybe you'll just find them as your next door neighbor. This show is supported by Good Foodie Media. For foodies who want to connect to the world through food, they curate the best spots to eat and drink in Malaysia, Bangkok, and Singapore. Check them out on Instagram for more. As a child, my guest today dreamed of being a footballer. Today, he's playing on a different green field as the Director of Commercial and Partnership at Grab Malaysia. At the core of his corporate personality are his humor, wit, and fascination for change. In this episode, we get a ride around what it's like to work at one of Southeast Asia's most successful tech companies, what the future of F&B might look like, and some tips for how restaurants can better curate their menus for 2022.
As a child growing up in Kedah, originally I think, like many kids, wanted to maybe be a footballer, but quickly realized probably didn't have the talent for it. But in school, kind of really grew to like physics, enjoy physics and math. And so kind of thought I would grow up to help design and build, buildings like mega structures, bridges, dams. That was kind of what I was very interested in kind of school.
Can you briefly tell us how you came to be the Director of Commercial and Partnership at Grab Malaysia? Like, what did you study in school, at university, and what were you working as before this?
Sure. So I was fortunate to, pursue a master's in engineering at the University of Oxford, and post that joined strategy consulting. And really learned a lot in that process, particularly around kind of real business problems. And also, I think at that time there was a lot of new technology that was emerging. And Grab really appealed to me because I had a lot of personal experiences living in KL at the time that had related to difficulties with transportation, getting around. For example, I used to take this regular taxi route from an LRT station to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I recall, some very interesting conversations I used to have with taxi drivers. One of them was around the point that, every day, I see this guy quite regularly, and every time I see him, he wants to charge me a different fare.
Wow.
And I was like, one day I asked him, hey, what's the price today? And it was like double the regular. So I asked him, why is today, more expensive? And he's like, today's a special day.
Wow.
I was like,
okay.
oh, wow, what's special about today? It's like, today, I can tell there's going to be a special jam. So I'm going to charge you double. And so, you know what, I was in a hurry, so I went along, and along the way, there was no special jam. But I still ended up paying him double the fare. And so, when I was looking out for something in the intersection of consumer and technology, Grab at that time really kind of struck a chord for me, and I felt like there was a real struggle for kind of Malaysians getting around. And so I went to Grab after strategy consulting, and I've been there now almost 5 years. Started in partnerships, and then moved on to GrabFood, and now kind of overseeing kind of commercials and partnerships in general.
So what's your day-to-day task? Can you describe a day at work for us?
Yeah, so a day at work for me is probably quite, I think, fast-paced, and a lot of things happen because at Grab we're constantly innovating, right? We have new features rolling out constantly. Looking out for ways to improve our services, give more value to consumer, empowering more merchants, micro entrepreneurs. So in general, I think it's very fast-paced, a lot of moving parts, and a lot of kind of different stakeholders to balance for our businesses to work well.
And how has the journey been for you so far? Any challenges you faced that you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, well, I think in terms of challenges, the biggest one is obviously, I think, the initial lockdowns from the COVID pandemic. Right, I think everyone lives got affected. And I think at Grab, it was a very shocking kind of moment for us as well because we had tens of thousands of Grab car drivers who relied on us for incomes, and overnight that disappeared, right? I recall the first couple of days we were just frantically trying to figure out what to do with food delivery, what to do with transport, what to do for bikers, how do we get sanitizers, how do we get face masks for them, and then people were sleeping in the office just to get the systems upgraded to allow Grab cars to deliver food as well. Very those kind of memories, will stick in our minds for a while.
What are some of the inspiration behind your ideas? For example, we talk about the Minggu Peniaga Kecil campaign. Can you kind of briefly tell us how did this idea come about and how do you guys execute ideas and campaigns like this?
Yeah, that's a good question, right, Casey? I think through the pandemic, we kind of very quickly realized that there were a lot of small new businesses who came online, but were really struggling to gain traction, right? These are your very traditional kind of MSMEs who came online with us, but the menu was very basic. There were no photos. There was very little. Unfortunately, like people didn't know to discover them, right? And so kind of Peniaga Kecil kind of was born from that because when we realized that was a problem, we figured, let's do a campaign around this and really only include the really small merchants in this campaign, right? And so that's what we did. We took, up to, I think at one point, 30,000 MSMEs, put them into the Peniaga Kecil campaign, gave them a lot of support in terms of, not only in terms of promotion and marketing, but also in terms of enablement, right? So we really strongly in the process of the whole Peniaga Kecil campaign encourage merchants to add photos to their menu, add descriptions, because we know all these things help with conversion, right? And our promotion and marketing, got them, 50% of the users who ordered from Peniaga Kecil were actually new to these merchants. So we realized that it was pretty effective in terms of helping consumers discover, this new pool of merchants, and also for these merchants to acquire customers that they didn't previously have. And so that's been a recurring campaign that we run monthly since a couple of quarters ago, and I think we'll continue to do it because I think we'll continue to see how it really helps the ecosystem.
Let's talk a little bit about the food trend report. For the benefit of our listeners who might be F&B business owners or just friends who love food, can you tell us about the food trend 2020/2021 report? Like, what were some of the interesting findings?
Sure. So we're very excited to share, the first version of our food trend report. Right. This food trend report was conducted. Studies were conducted throughout the years of 2020 and up to middle of 2021.
Yeah.
And I think a couple of very interesting insights came up and trends that I think merchants can benefit from. For example, one is that we realized that 7 in 10 Malaysians will tell you that they want to eat healthier, right? And 60% of them were ordering for families. And so I think these 2 points, for example, are opportunities, right? Because if consumers, if 7 in 10 Malaysians are telling you they want to eat healthier, as a merchant on our platform, do you have sufficient healthy options? Do you have the option to swap out ingredients for something healthier, for example? So I think that's one point. Then the other point around family meals, right? Do you have family bundle sets that have options for parents as well as the kids? Do you have kids meals, for example? All these are kind of data points that we want to put out there for merchants to think about and use, the platforms and the technology we provided in terms of the ability to, instantly update your menu within the merchant app, for example, to kind of jump onto some of these trends and improve, conversion and sales on our platform. So yeah, I think we're very excited about, the marriage of kind of these insights with our platform. And see how we can benefit more merchants along the way.
And how was this research conducted?
Yeah, so I think across the region, we had surveyed more than 10,000 consumers. We had focus groups. We had experts who weighed in. We leveraged a lot of data as well on our platform, and so it was a pretty extensive effort, and we hope that the results will be helpful.
And what is an interesting consumer trend you notice from the report that you find interesting personally?
It's for me. It has to. I'm also trying to eat healthier. So the fact that many kind of Malaysians kind of are in the same boat as me, I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, I'm, for example, myself, am also trying to look for more kind of healthy options, and I do swap out some ingredients in some menu items when they're available sometimes. So yeah, that was quite interesting for me personally.
That was JJ Tan. You're listening to Foodie Canteen. When we come back, JJ shares his prediction for the future of F&B, an omnichannel marketplace. He also gave some career advice for those looking to thrive in the workspace. This show is supported by Good Foodie Media. For foodie who wants to connect to the world through food, that's where you go. Find Penang Foodie, KL Foodie, Halal Foodie, Singapore Foodie, and Bangkok Foodie on Instagram. They curate the best spots to eat and drink in these cities. But from the report that we saw, a lot of Malaysians seem to lean towards more dishes like fast food and burger and pizza, but they are not really healthy. I mean, why do you think like local Malaysians dishes or healthy options are less popular on GrabFood?
Yeah, so I think the report was those categories you named were some of the top search categories.
Yep.
So I think it means that consumers are really exploring those categories.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you see very good volumes for local cuisines. Right? I think maybe I think there's still local cuisines are probably still majority, but people might explore kind of the Western fast food and other options a bit more. So I think there is a good balance in terms of what's being ordered, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, we all love our staples, right? We all love our nasi lemak, our mee goreng. So those are still, a very big part of what is being ordered. But you're right. I think, the healthy part is still, I would say still up and coming. It's still developing, not necessarily like the biggest part of the sector need.
And based on the report, like you said, you guys found out that we are looking at family meals or more healthy food. What tips or suggestions do you have to share with restaurant owners who are listening, or we call them merchants on GrabFood, that they can take away from this podcast and maybe curate their menu for the next year?
Gotcha. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think first point is, I think really about iteration. Right, we are trying very hard to make the platform easy to use and responsive. So, for example, if you, as a merchant, you look at your menu and you think that, hey, I want to try out something new, along these themes that seems to be in trend. I think what we're hoping to be able to do is to give you that feedback loop, right? If you can very quickly edit your menu, update photos, etc. And also because on the merchant portal, you can actually see results by different SKU lines, by different times of day, right? We're hoping that you'll be able to leverage kind of those immediate kind of data feedback to continuously improve the menu, right? So I think that's kind of one key point. The second is, I think, more extending the range as well, right? So be it healthy options, be it we've noticed, for example, that breakfast is also growing quite quickly, but breakfast peaks between 9 to 10 a.m. So sometimes, you might want to do some breakfast menus, but, if you're not there before 9 a.m., you will miss the peak hour for breakfast. So that's another data point that, I hope merchants can factor into kind of designing the menus. But third really is, we constantly share tips around how do you, improve, menu descriptions. How do you think about different promotions, for example? All these are kind of communications that we will share periodically with our merchants. So I would say, on top of the trend report, look out for tips and pointers from us It'll come in through your app. It'll go in through your registered email with us. Because we want to build this kind of very successful partnership with our merchant partners.
Yeah. And what are some of the tools Grab has introduced to help merchants improve their online business?
So the newest one is actually Grab Online Shop. So Grab Online Shop is a service that we now provide to GrabFood merchants where, for no charge, you can get a URL from us for a working website that
Wow.
will tailor to your branding, your color.
Mm-hmm.
But what we'll do is actually it's a mirror of your GrabFood menu, and with that URL, for example, you can get another channel to get sales online. And we have different commercials for that because at the end of the day, merchants doing their own marketing, right, for that channel. So we're seeing very good take up in terms of merchants who are interested in getting this new channel for their online sales. So I think that's one. The other one is, we talked about the merchant portal and also our in-app portals quite a bit already. But we're continuously working on improving the merchant portal to provide more access to live data, more insight, more tools that you can use to kind of create bundles, etc. So I think a lot of our efforts and innovation will come through kind of the portal and the merchant app. So I think those are kind of the two key recent tools that I think have been launched.
So here's a personal question. I think right now as consumers, we are more aware of what we buy, what we use. So as consumers become more, I would say, environmentally conscious, what is Grab doing about this matter?
It's a good point, right? And I think that's a topic that strikes a chord with a lot of us at Grab as well. I think a couple of years ago we rolled out this cutlery toggle, right? You toggle if you want or don't want cutlery.
Yeah.
And I would say that actually the majority of orders now actually do not want cutlery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think in the process, we've really saved a lot of single-use plastics. And also, we've also partnered with some providers who are looking to offer affordable, environmentally friendly packaging for our merchants, right? So that's kind of efforts we will continue. But I think in the food trend report as well, we saw that I think it was about 6 in 10 as well. 6 in 10 Malaysians do care, tell us that they care about having eco-friendly packaging, for example. So I think we will over time try and work with our merchants to kind of increase that as well in terms of the prevalence of eco-friendly packaging.
I'm sure a lot of people are curious to know what's the work culture like in Grab? Like, how do teams stay competitive and be on top of their game all the time?
Yeah, it's I think I'm very fortunate to work with a lot of very amazing colleagues who I think if you can see the screen around me at Grab, our values are kind of summarized by these what we call 4 H's. They are hunger, humility, honor, and
Heart.
Yeah, heart.
Yes.
And so kind of the culture is really driven by these things, right? We try and be agile.
Yeah.
We try and make sure that we're constantly innovating, right? And that's where the hunger comes in. But at the same time, I think it's important that we're all very humble, to be honest.
Yeah.
We don't take for granted that we play a part in a very complex ecosystem, many different stakeholders. So always try and achieve the right balance is a real challenge. And so we try and take every decision we make very carefully, considering all the factors. And I think that's where a lot of the heart comes in as well. At the end of the day, our mission is to kind of empower more micro entrepreneurs, be it delivery partners, be it merchants, be it consumers. But that really drives us.
I want to jump back a little bit because we were talking about eco-friendly products. Maybe this is the future of F&B, but in your personal view, what do you think the future of F&B is going to look like?
I think one data point that stands out from the report is that 87% of our users surveyed indicate that they would likely continue to order using food delivery in the future. So I think that points to a future where it's quite omnichannel-driven in the sense that you will have dine-in, delivery, as well as order ahead, self-pickup. All these will coexist. And I think the other data point that's very interesting as well is that we've discussed this already. Consumers want healthy options, for example, and I think that's still something that's emerging. I personally believe that will become increasingly important over time. And I think the third one is that I think what platforms like ours have done is that we've made discovery of new and different food options more convenient for consumers, right? Whereas in the past, consumers might have had to walk past a shop to discover a new option. But I think with platforms like ours, that discovery of kind of new variety, new merchants becomes a lot easier. So I think that will continue to be a part of the F&B industry going forward.
Finally, what advice would you give to our listeners who's looking to work and thrive in the corporate environment?
I think at Grab we try to stay true to the 4Hs we described earlier. So there's in terms of hierarchy, we're still very flat, very hungry, and everything. It's a lot about teamwork as well. So I think anyone looking to kind of thrive in any kind of work environment, those kind of principles around being humble, being hungry, and have heart, so that you believe in the mission of something you're doing. I think all of that will continue to be very important.
You have just listened to JJ's story on Foodie Canteen. This show is produced by me, your host Castle Lim, and written by Sulin Chang. Foodie Canteen podcast is made possible by the excellent team at Good Foodie Media. Check us out on Instagram and Facebook at Foodie Canteen for more. Follow us for brand new episodes every Friday. Thank you for listening.